29-year-old Kelsey Berreth lived in Woodland Park, Colorado. Her friends described her as a country girl at heart, and from a young age she had loved driving tractors and booking bales. She enjoyed travelling, the outdoors and adventure, and her job as a pilot and flight instructor helped scratch this itch for seeing the world even more. It was on a dating website in 2016 that she met a Colorado cowboy, 32-year-old Patrick Frazee. Patrick lived on his mother Sheila's 35-acre ranch, where he trained cattle dogs and had horses and donkeys.
4 dogs. That'll be our dogs to train this fall and winter.
Naturally, Kelsey was drawn to him right away, and the pair immediately hit it off. They soon got engaged, and in October 2017, Kelsey gave birth to the couple's daughter, Kaylee. Kelsey's mom Cheryl said her daughter, ever the low-key person, didn't want a big wedding at all. She wanted something nice and small between them and God. As the months passed, sadly for Kelsey, nothing seemed to change or move forward, and they were still in a long-distance relationship. Kaylee would live with Kelsey, and Kelsey would drive to Patrick's ranch on her days off. He wanted her to move in with him, but he lived with Sheila, and Kelsey said she just wanted to live with him and Kaylee, not his mother as well, so moving plans were at a standstill. Friends said over the following months things were getting tougher, and Kelsey's dreams of what she wanted for her family were quickly dissipating. She mentioned to friends that she was worried about Patrick talking to an ex-girlfriend as well, but she didn't know for sure. It was just another thing she was feeling low about. Having a baby is a hard enough challenge as it is, but with Patrick refusing to come and see her and his life not changing a single bit, she told friends she was struggling to juggle everything. He seemed to have just checked out, but she wasn't going to give up on what they had. It was now coming to the end of 2018 and the holiday season was in full swing. Kelsey was putting things to the back of her mind to enjoy spending time with Kaylee, who was now just over a year old, and her mum Cheryl. As everyone was starting to settle down for their Christmas plans, Kelsey's mum Cheryl had other things on her mind. She was getting increasingly worried as she hadn't heard from her daughter since Thanksgiving. Yes, she was busy with her job and a baby, but something felt off. She decided to voice her feelings to the local police department and requested a welfare check. When police arrived at Kelsey's house, they spotted her car parked outside. There were some unwashed dishes and uneaten food on the kitchen counter, along with what looked like most of her belongings. All her clothes and bags seemed to be untouched, but they couldn't find her phone or purse. They said there were no signs of foul play, but a missing persons report was filed and Kelsey's information started circulating. Cheryl said the last time she spoke to her daughter was Thanksgiving morning, November 22nd. She had been baking some cinnamon buns and was going to head for some more food to make dinner. She was chatty and what sounded like in good spirits. For Cheryl, who spoke to her every day, she said nothing stood out to her about the call. Just after noon, Kelsey went to the local Safeway store with Kaylee for some more food. It appeared that Patrick was joining them for dinner, as she had sent him a text message and said, "I bought some sweet potatoes in case you wanted some sweet potato casserole."
29-year-old Kelsey Berreth has been missing since Thanksgiving. The flight instructor and mother of a 1-year-old was last seen at this Safeway in Woodland Park, Colorado, near her home.
If she's out there, doesn't want to be contacted, just let us know that she's safe and we'll let her family know.
A vigil Sunday organized by her brother-in-law was held in Washington State, where some of her family lives.
If they see her anywhere, please say something.
A Facebook page has been set up for the missing mom with updates on her case.
Naturally, the police wanted to talk to her fiancé as well. To their surprise, he told them that Kelsey had actually ended things with him just a day before Thanksgiving. He said they weren't meshing anymore, but they were going to work on things being 50-50 for Kaylee. So where was Kaylee now, they asked. Well, Kaylee was with him. A day after Kelsey called things off, Thanksgiving, they met briefly in an alley so she could hand over their daughter. Patrick told police he returned some of Kaylee's belongings to her at the same time. He then took Kaylee to his ranch for Thanksgiving dinner where she stayed, but Kelsey didn't come. He said he had heard from her a little bit over the coming days, and in one conversation he asked, "Are you awake?" She replied, "Sorry, I didn't hear my phone. going to jump in the shower. I'll call you guys when I'm out." Later on, after a phone call, Patrick messaged her saying, "If this is truly what you want, I'll respect your wishes and give you space." But why the sudden end to things, they wondered. She had just been buying ingredients for dinner, baking and talking about wedding dresses with her mother. He said that Kelsey struggled with depression, and he called her unstable, hinting that she may be feeling suicidal. He told them she might even be in rehab, implying some sort of drug abuse. Her friends and family were shocked. There was no way this was true. She would never have left her daughter for this long, and they had never heard anything about depression or drugs. Cheryl said that Kelsey was trying to make things work, and it was in fact Patrick that had told her he didn't want to deal with things anymore. In fact, the more the police dug, the more they realised there was no evidence to suggest that they had broken up, or even taken a break. Things got stranger when her boss said she had texted him, saying that Patrick would be coming to their company holiday party. He described her excitement with a lot of exclamation marks and emojis. It clearly meant so much to her that he was going to attend. But not long after, he got an unexpected message from her, saying she would be taking a week off from work, with no reason for it. More alarmingly still, her phone had shown pings in Idaho, 800 miles away from her house.
Good afternoon. I'm Chief Miles DeYoung, Chief of Police for the City of Woodland Park. I'm going to give you a brief timeline and kind of bring you current with where we're at right now. Kelsey's been missing and been reported missing by her mother, Cheryl, since Sunday, December 2nd at about 12:37 p.m. Officers were able to contact her place of employment at Doss Aviation down in Pueblo, Colorado, and were advised that they had received a text from Kelsey's phone on the 25th of November stating that she would not be into work the following week. Cheryl did reach out to Kelsey's fiance, Patrick Frazee, and he called her back saying that he hadn't heard from her since November 25th when Kelsey texted him. Reports are correct that Kelsey's phone gave a location near Gooding, Idaho on November 25th at about 5:13 in the afternoon. We've executed search warrants on Kelsey's home as well as both of her vehicles. We are treating Kelsey's disappearance as a missing persons case at this time. We have not identified anyone as a suspect and are asking the public for any information that might help us find her. And at this time, Kelsey's mother, Cheryl, would like to say a few words.
I'd just like to talk to you a little bit about Kelsey. She's not the kind that runs off. This is completely out of character. Kelsey loves her God, she loves her family and friends, and she loves her job. She's reliable, considerate, and honest. We've created the Facebook page Missing Mother, Kelsey Berreth, as a site that gets her face out there, that's used to spread the word that she's missing. And we'd like to ask everyone to please share it. Don't use it as a place to speculate, interrogate, or to dog the administrators. We're all doing our best to get this information out. We're doing our best to respond to the questions and so forth, but that's what the police force is there for, and for the press site. Our sole goal is to get Kelsey out in front of everyone. Like I said, she doesn't run off, and someone knows where she's at. Kelsey, we just want you home. Call us if you can, and we won't quit looking.
Chief, I understand that Patrick was invited today. Why is he not here?
That is a question you'd have to ask him.
Is he being cooperative?
Yes, at this time, yes. Any other questions?
Chief said she was invited. Is there any indication that she may have? Well,
very good question. Yes, she is a flight instructor down in Pueblo. All airplanes are accounted for. There is no indication that she has taken off in an airplane and gone somewhere at this point.
Where is the baby?
The baby is with the baby's father, Patrick.
What's in the bed?
Do we think this is suspicious at this point?
At this point, it's a missing persons case. I have nothing to indicate other than it is a missing persons case.
Cheryl and Kelsey's brother Clint knew there was more to this, and they decided to start their own investigation, beginning at her house. They knew her place really well and could easily spot things out of place that perhaps the police wouldn't have known to look for. As soon as they walked in, they were hit by the heat. It was sweltering hot inside, and everything had been cranked up to full. The cinnamon buns she had made Thanksgiving morning were sat on the side, and her dishes had all been left out. Oddly though, her refrigerator looked like it had been wiped down recently. You could still see the streaks on it. They saw the mat in the bathroom was gone and her brother noticed what looked like blood on the toilet. Cheryl called the investigators back, and this time they brought luminol and a cadaver dog. They found blood everywhere, and DNA results confirmed it was Kelsey's. The lead investigator said, "It was until after I got done interviewing Cheryl Berreth and Clint Berreth that it began to cause me to think, this is just not characteristic of Kelsey. This is not something she would just up and leave. Kelsey was a very proud mom, a hard-working woman, determined, a great mom. She'd never gone off before. She was always in communication with her mom. There were no signs of a forced entry into the home. There were no signs of a struggle. At that point I started thinking, this isn't a woman who would have left on her own." They got the FBI involved right away, and over the coming days more press conferences were held, along with vigils, and a $25,000 reward was on offer for any information. There was now no other conclusion they could really draw from the blood, her total lack of contact with anyone, and the fact she had left her daughter. They believed Kelsey had been murdered. On day 4 of the search, the police said they were close to breakthroughs in the case, and there was one person they were looking closely at: Patrick. He hadn't attended any of the press conferences or vigils and hadn't called to check in on the progress once. And CCTV from Kelsey's neighbour's house told a very different story to what Patrick had told them. Footage showed Patrick entering Kelsey's house with both her and Kaylee on the day she disappeared. He had told them he had met her in an alley where she had handed over Kaylee. And a few hours later, he was at her house again, but this time he was alone. But given how the recordings had picked things up, it was unclear as to whether or not he was coming or going. Kelsey's phone data also showed something else. They could now confirm that both hers and Patrick's phones had been together for several days after she was last seen, and her phone was last pinging all the way over in Idaho. And from there, several messages had been sent from her phone to Patrick, Kelsey's boss, and even Cheryl. On December the 14th, the FBI executed a search warrant at his property, and huge amounts of land started to get dug up. More cell phone warrants were written for Patrick's phone, as they tried to work out what the Idaho connection could possibly be. There was one number standing out to them that connected everything. It was linked to a nurse living in Idaho called Crystal Lee Kenny. They called her, but she denied knowing Patrick, then told a vague story about going to see him to maybe buy some horses. But the more they looked at things, the more obvious it was that Crystal and Patrick had actually been having an on-off relationship for over a decade. She was recently divorced, and this was when their relationship had really taken off. Her ex-husband was happy to share this information with them. The messages sent from Kelsey's phone in Idaho had clearly been sent by Crystal. They were pinging off of the same towers near to where she lived, and now it appeared Kelsey's phone had been destroyed. But was having an affair enough to establish a motive for wanting Kelsey dead? Police weren't sure, and they still didn't have a body.
Woodland Park Police returned to Patrick Frazie's home today. A routine follow-up, they say, as they continue to look for his missing fiancée, Kelsey Berreth. They spent the weekend searching his property, and Flora sent a new drone video from our sister station in Colorado Springs shows the aftermath of that search, including the torn-up earth in front of the house. Investigators did not find Kelsey in that search, though they said they do want to talk to Frazie face-to-face.
Investigators were back at the home of Kelsey Berreth, the mother missing from Woodland Park since Thanksgiving. Police and agents with the Colorado Bureau of Investigation were seen going in and out of that house this evening. But if investigators are close to a break in this case, they're not talking about it.
Good evening, Kristen and Kyle. Yeah, police put out a news release saying that Kelsey's still missing and there are no arrests in her disappearance. The only new activity really down here was the sight of investigators entering and leaving Kelsey's home. They left with brown bags, but they didn't say what they took. Now, an evidence response team was also seen leaving the police station earlier this evening. That's where we are. Woodland Park Police, they did again in that news release tonight say they're following new information that comes in daily and they're making progress, but it's not clear exactly what that means. Now, today marks day 28 since Kelsey's disappearance. She was last seen shopping at a Safeway with her one-year-old daughter, not far from where we are now. Investigators say that her fiance, Patrick Frazee, told them he did see Kelsey later that day when he went to pick up their daughter, and investigators actually searched his property earlier, or actually last week, and they wrapped that search up over the weekend with no findings or anything. Kyle, Kristen?
It certainly looks like something's shifting, something's changing with that activity. All right, Jordan, thank you.
A friend of Crystal's then came forward. She knew that they were looking at the pair in connection with Kelsey's case, and Crystal had shared something disturbing with her that she felt she now had to share. Patrick had said to Crystal, "I need you to take care of my baby mama," something Crystal and her friend both interpreted to mean, "I want Kelsey dead." Patrick had told Crystal that Kelsey was an abusive mom and drug addict, and he wanted to save his daughter and have full custody, but he needed Crystal to do it for him. He was also financially in a lot of trouble. He had just defaulted on a $72,000 loan and had not paid Kelsey the agreed $700 a month in child support since July. He was listed as the beneficiary to a large life insurance policy that had recently been taken out by Kelsey, which, as well as wanting full custody and the ongoing affair, provided another motive for wanting Kelsey out of his picture. The police went back to Crystal and put all of this information to her, and the truth finally started to come out. She admitted that yes, she and Patrick had been having an on-off affair for years, and Patrick had asked her to kill Kelsey for him, firstly by poisoning coffee and dropping it off at her house pretending to be a stranger, and then beating her to death. But when these plans didn't come to anything, frustrated, he decided to carry out the awful plot himself. Crystal, now knowing how serious this all was, agreed to show the investigators around Kelsey's home, tell them everything start to finish, and testify against Patrick. But on one condition: she would plead guilty to the far lesser charge of tampering with evidence, a charge which, if convicted, she would only get a maximum of 3 years for. The prosecution were torn but ultimately agreed, describing it as a deal with the devil, but they needed the truth. Crystal walked them around Kelsey's house.
It's 11:15. We're inside Kelsey's apartment with Crystal. Her attorney's with us. When you came in, what did you see?
When I first walked in, I found blood all over the floor. I saw blood up the wall. Saw blood on this wall.
Did you say, correct me if I'm wrong, did you say that you cleaned off some of the appliances?
I did. I wiped there was blood on the front of the dishwasher. There was blood on the front of the stove. There was that cinnamon roll pan had blood on the tinfoil on top of it. There was blood on top of the coffee maker. There was blood. In fact, I had to climb up. There was a blood spatter up high.
How'd you climb up?
I just climbed up right here.
So when you say blood spatter on there, can you go ahead and point to the areas
here, down this?
Okay, hold on, let me get a picture of it. Go ahead, put your finger. So with this broom, can you point to the area where you saw and clean blood up on the wall? And just hold it there so we can picture that. Okay, anywhere else?
It was the spray was from here all the way. I had to clean up underneath here. Then it was all down here.
Go ahead and
just bloody footprints all up the stairs. I moved to the couch. I wiped the couch off. There was blood behind the couch down the wall. There was a stand, some sort of stand right there by the couch, and the lamp and that basket were on it. I worked from that side all the way around, did the upstairs, and then I did the bathroom and the kitchen and mopped the floor.
Using her admissions plus cell phone records, the police now had some sort of timeline and their case against Patrick was strong. On November 22nd, 2018, the same day Kelsey was last seen, there was a lot of contacts between Patrick and Kelsey's phones, which started at around 1 a.m. Kelsey sent a text to Patrick at 9:37 a.m, and then they spoke on the phone for a few minutes too. She told him about the Thanksgiving dinner she was making before going to Safeway at 12:20. At 12:31 p.m, Patrick called Kelsey and they spoke on the phone for just 30 seconds. Patrick said that as they were now over, they then met in an alley to swap Kaylee over, and that was the last time he saw her. But as they now knew, this was not the last time he saw her. Both of their cell phones were connected to the same tower between 1 p.m. and 4:30 p.m. that afternoon. At 1:24 p.m, Patrick could be seen entering the front door of Kelsey's house with her. Once inside, according to Crystal, he blindfolded Kelsey and asked her to smell some scented candles, telling her to guess the scent. He then grabbed a baseball bat and, in his words, started swinging. He beat her to death, knocking out some of her teeth in the process. While this was happening, her daughter was playing in the other room. Her last words, according to Patrick, were, "Please stop." After this, he went to a Walmart with Kaylee and topped up his gas. Later, he was seen going back to her home at around 3:30 p.m. Once inside, Patrick called his mother Sheila and Crystal. Crystal told investigators that he called her to come to Colorado because she had a mess to clean up. She understood that this was code for Kelsey being killed and she needed to clean the house. He also told her to try and find Kelsey's missing teeth while she was there. She packed some bleach, gloves and the likes and set off on the 13-hour overnight drive from Idaho to Colorado. After he hung up, he forced Kelsey's body into a tote that was picked up on camera in the back of his truck. In total, he had been picked up entering and exiting her house 11 times that day. Both his and Kelsey's cell phones were connected to the same towers as he drove to a place called Nash Ranch to temporarily hide her body. He then left to have Thanksgiving dinner with Kaylee and his family. When Crystal got to her house, she cleaned it for hours. She alleged that she purposely left several spots, claiming that she wanted him to get caught and the truth to come out at some point.
In the interview, you told us that you had left blood spots. Can you show me where you left those? Okay.
There.
All right.
I know it was down low and then I left one up high.
Did you leave blood anywhere else that you didn't clean up?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Did you touch or manipulate anything in here while you were in here?
Yeah, I put laundry detergent in the washing machine and towels in there. I had been instructed to try to wash things, and I didn't do that.
You said a towel?
There might have been a couple of towels that I put inside the washing machine, but they were just towels from dirty laundry. They didn't have anything on them that I was aware of.
Do you remember what color they were?
Red.
Okay. And do you remember where you got the detergent from?
I believe it was sitting with the washing machine.
You do? Okay. Anything else that you remember or want to talk about in this area, here in her place?
Not that I remember right now, but if I do remember something, I'll...
Okay. We're going to go ahead and shut the video off and leave. It's now 11:30.
On November 24th, at about 5 p.m. and after cleaning up, Crystal and Patrick went to Nash Ranch to retrieve Kelsey's body. They drove the tote from Nash Ranch back to Patrick's home. Patrick had made 19 phone calls and sent numerous text messages to and from both phones, pretending to be Kelsey during this time. They put the tote and the bat used to kill her into a huge trough. They poured 5 gallons of gasoline over the top and watched everything burn. Crystal tossed in Kelsey's Bible and some of Kaylee's toys too. She said that when they were burning the tote, Patrick's mother Sheila stood on the porch and watched too. Sheila, however, would later plead the fifth on this one. Crystal then took Kelsey's gun and phone to Idaho to continue creating a fake narrative with texts. Patrick told her to take Kelsey's gun because he wanted to create the illusion that Kelsey might want to take her own life. At some point, Crystal destroyed Kelsey's phone, and Patrick went into a Verizon store to ask if they could recover information if the phone was no longer working. She then showed them around his ranch too.
2018, it's about 8:30 p.m. or a.m. and we're up at Patrick Frazie's property. So, Crystal, can you again kind of just describe to us right now? First, the container. If you can describe the container that we talked about yesterday again.
The container was a black plastic tote that was about this tall and about that wide.
And then as far as the container, the tub, if you will, that that tote container was put in, can you describe that again?
It was an aluminum water trough, round, no bottom on it. I parked it right there. I got out. I spoke with him. We talked for probably an hour and a half. He needed to do his chores. He went in and got his little girl. I carried his little girl around while he finished his chores. He gave me Kelsey's phone and gave me instructions on what to do with the phone. This is where the aluminum trough was, and this is where the burn occurred.
Where is it now, if you can direct us to where Patrick got the trough?
I don't know where he got the trough from.
Where were you? Was it here?
The trough was here on his property. I was down at the bottom of the hill.
Were you present when he started the fire?
Yes, I was.
Okay. I believe yesterday you said that you also collected wood and put into the burn pit?
Yes, I did.
Did you recall, or did you go anywhere else, or did you see Patrick go anywhere else?
No.
What about the accelerant? Do you know that? Obviously,
it was gas.
Okay.
And then he also threw in motor oil.
You had also mentioned that at one point Patrick's mom came out and stood on the deck. Looking over towards the house, can you tell me where you saw his mom?
I could just see her stuck out between the two trees.
We're going to go ahead and turn the camera off now, and it is 9 a.m.
Crystal's best friend that she had confided in told her she regretted not passing on the information before anything happened to Kelsey. She believed Crystal was scared and said she had very, very good reasoning for whatever it is she may or may not have done. On December 21st, less than a month after she had been reported missing, Patrick Frazie was arrested and charged with first-degree murder, solicitation to commit murder, along with 6 other charges. He pleaded not guilty to everything.
Start tonight with the new information we've learned in the Kelsey Berreth case. Thanks for joining us. I'm Kagan Harsha.
I'm Aristea Brady. Court records showing the couple was expected to face a judge together in the coming days. Here's how the search for Kelsey Berreth has unfolded so far. She was last seen on Thanksgiving Day on this surveillance video you see here. This is from the Safeway in Woodland Park. Last week, police searched this home of her fiance, and then this week they've searched her home several times. And the breaking news this morning, her fiance, Patrick Frazee, arrested, charged with first-degree murder.
This is where Patrick Frazee is locked up tonight without bond, so he's probably going to be here for quite some time. Meanwhile, in just the last couple hours, I've learned Frazee was set to have a temporary custody hearing next week with the mother of his 1-year-old daughter. Now, mind you, this is the same mother he's now accused of murdering.
Investigators have recovered a number of items that make us suspicious that the crime did occur at Kelsey's residence.
Woodland Park's chief of police, Miles DeYoung, is not saying exactly what that evidence is. But investigators were at Kelsey's home both Friday morning and Thursday night, the same time an arrest warrant for Frazee was being drawn up.
This has been a methodical and time-consuming multi-state operation, with investigators working nearly around the clock to find Kelsey.
Those investigators include nearly 30 FBI agents who have been heavily involved in this case here in Colorado and in several other states. Frazee made his first appearance in court Friday afternoon on a video screen inside this courtroom. No one from Kelsey's family was there, but this woman, who later went to Frazee's family home, was.
Yeah, so emotional. Right now on KDVR.com, you can see a legal breakdown of soliciting for murder and another newsworthy case involving that charge. There's also a lot of questions still remaining, like where Kelsey is and where her phone is.
Crystal Lee Kenny pleaded guilty to tampering with evidence and became a star witness for the prosecution.
Nurse has offered her own confession, what she admitted to today.
The mystery woman at the center of the Kelsey Berreth murder case tonight making a deal with prosecutors. Crystal Lee Kenny pleading guilty to helping Berreth's fiancé Patrick Frazee get rid of evidence. Multiple sources say Kenny and Frazee were romantically involved. Her family says the only reason she helped him is because he allegedly threatened her.
You see him? He's in cuffs. Kenny was free to go today, but she could eventually be sentenced to jail time. And as part of her plea deal, she agrees to testify against Patrick Frazee in his murder trial.
The lead investigator said in his 37 years on the force, he had never had a no-body case before. And although he was glad that he could get some answers from Crystal, he now knew there were no remains for Kelsey's family to lay to rest. He had to really gear himself up for the conversation and said, "In my mind, I'm hoping we're going to find the body. And when she tells us she's burned it, I thought, how do I tell Cheryl? How do you tell a mother and father that your daughter's been burned? It's hard to tell a parent, but to tell them this happened, I couldn't do it." Sheila, his mother, was also briefly detained but not placed under arrest. The courts held an emergency custody hearing to determine what would happen to Kaylee. Patrick's parents were fighting for custody, but the judge determined Kaylee should stay with Cheryl. If what Crystal said was true, then given the fact Patrick's mother watched him burn Kelsey's body, it's good to know that custody did not go to her. To some of Kelsey's friends, it came as no shock that Patrick was behind what had happened. Patrick's ex-girlfriend Vanessa said she saw this side of his character during their relationship. She said, "I was attracted to his sharp wit and he was excellent at reading people, but his behaviour quickly became emotionally abusive and controlling." Their on-again, off-again relationship ended in 2014, when Vanessa said she came across the definition of a psychopath online. It fit him to a T and matched all of his behaviours, and she decided she had to call time on things once and for all. Vanessa believed Crystal was under his spell just as the way she used to be. He's a very, very complicated individual, and he's very, very smart. And like I said, he can read people really well, and he knew how to press people's buttons, she said.
The trial of Patrick Frazee, the Colorado man accused of killing his fiancée, begins today.
In October 2019, almost a year after Kelsey was last seen, Patrick's trial started. During the trial, cameras and live reporting were banned and security was tight. The jury would hear from some key witnesses, including Crystal and an inmate that had shared a cell with Patrick. Patrick had passed the inmate notes on toilet paper, asking him to help kill people on the outside that knew what was going on. Crystal was one, and her best friend and Cheryl were two others. One note read, "They all need to disappear, unseen until 11:22 after the trial. I'd really like to see Crystal with a bullet in her head. No video, no weapon, no body, no forensics."
It only took a jury a little over 2.5 hours to find Patrick Frazee
guilty on all counts in the death of his fiancée, that young mom, Kelsey Berreth.
After just a few hours, the jury, unsurprisingly, returned a unanimous guilty verdict. Patrick Frazee was sentenced to life without parole for first-degree murder, to be followed by 3 consecutive sentences of the maximum 48 years each for the 3 counts of solicitation to murder, and the maximum of 12 years for tampering with a body, and be followed by 5 years of parole. In total, he was sentenced to life without parole, plus an additional 156 years. Patrick Frazee will die in prison. The judge said, "Your actions were vicious, senseless, without reason nor explanation. After you beat her, you burned her body like a piece of trash. Your crimes deserve the absolute punishment available." Kelsey's family had agreed not to seek the death penalty against him, with Cheryl saying, "We believe in a forgiving saviour and hope that Patrick will take this opportunity to repent and seek his forgiveness. We respect life and leave Patrick's in God's hands. It's not ours to take." The district attorney praised Kelsey's family, having grown close to them over the trial. He described them as salt of the earth, wonderful people. Crystal Lee Kenny was also sentenced to just 3 years in prison.
Crystal Lee stood before the judge today, her loved ones, even members of the victim's family, and she apologized through tears. She said she acted out of fear. Her attorney and her friends said she is a good person at heart. But members of the victim's family were in the courtroom today too, and Kelsey Berreth's family asked the judge for the maximum sentence, and he gave it. 3 years in prison, 1 year parole. District Attorney Dan May compared her plea agreement to making a deal with the devil. He said it was worth it, though, to put Frazee behind bars, but he does believe that Crystal got off way too light. May says even with that sentence, Crystal Lee won't serve the full time in prison. He said this is an issue that bothers him. May says he plans to go to the legislature this year and fight against any efforts to give defendants more good time credits.
Our legislature anymore does not give truth in sentencing. A 3-year sentence doesn't mean 3 years. The day she walks into DOC, they're going to mark her down as a 1.5 year sentence because they're already going to give her the good time credits for 50%. What the sentence you hear in the courtroom ought to be what the sentence somebody receives in their case. We did a deal with the devil. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that, and I'm not proud of that. But there's no question that Kelsey wouldn't have had the sure justice today without making that deal with the devil. We didn't pick her. As I said before, it's the defendant who picked her. He's the one who decided to put all these witnesses into this case.
Kelsey's family acknowledged that without Crystal's cooperation, a conviction would have been difficult, if not impossible. But they believed, along with many people, that she should have received a much heavier sentence. The only thing she didn't do was swing the bat, they said. The lead investigator added Crystal did some horrific things, and as horrific as what Patrick did, Crystal did some hardcore things too. It was hard, and it's still hard for me to understand why she made the decision she made. Partially because I'm not in a domestic violence situation. I have an appreciation and respect for the dynamics of it all. She's an intelligent woman, she's a good mom. The decisions she made and why, quite frankly, I'm not sure any of us would ever understand. But without Crystal, we wouldn't be where we are today. But another detective wasn't so sure and said, "I'm still torn. I think between empathy and just being appalled by what she did." Like he said, I'm not part of a domestic situation. I have never been. I can't speak to what's going through someone's mind. It's just hard to understand. 11 hours, come down and do that, and you don't call the cops? Don't understand it. Crystal was then resentenced to 18 months and released early in 2021. Patrick Frazee appealed his sentence, but in 2023 this was denied. None of Kelsey's remains have ever been found. What happened in the small community that Thanksgiving Day definitely left a dark cloud over the town, one that everyone was keen to try and remove as best they could. Volunteers, construction workers and other local businesses came together to donate their skills and materials to rehabilitate Kelsey's now damaged house so that it could be resold. It was our way of showing that Woodland Park isn't about Patrick Frazee, it's about good people, one neighbour said. To think that Kelsey's daughter will grow up without knowing her is heartbreaking. And for what? What on earth possessed Patrick to do this is still not known. It was a senseless murder for simply nothing more than murder's sake. Kelsey's uncle said his whole family are big huggers, but Kelsey definitely gave the best ones, and that is something everyone will always miss. A detective said there's questions we have never answered. I don't put pictures of victims in my cubicles or anything like that. I think we all remember our victims, all of them in cases like this. Kelsey's just going to be one that sticks with me for a long time. I can't fathom why Patrick did it. I don't know what possesses an individual, be it Patrick or anyone else, to be so angry and violent to the mother of their child. I just don't know. Another officer and the district attorney added, unfortunately, we never got to meet Kelsey in real life. We would have loved to have met her under a different circumstance. For a woman to be involved in the aviation industry or the military, it's not an easy task. It's a difficult world to get in, but she had no difficulties at all. She was so well respected, she was revered, she was appreciated. The comments that her co-workers made about her, even how the students talked about her, really showed what a wonderful person she was, and just how dedicated she was to not only her daughter, but to her country. How we feel means nothing. I hope if Kelsey's soul has the ability, she knows that people did care, that we, all of us involved, all the people from the FBI, CBI, the DA's office, everybody, people did care. She was and still is important. She always will be.